Shalom Chaverim, and welcome to a very, very special edition of the Chag. And I see that there is some of the light is on me. Hopefully the light will not be as bright. But we are in Hanukkah, and I hope everybody been enjoying Hanukkah. Wishing you Chag Hanukkah Sameach. We've been doing every day a live shiur on Hanukkah, and we've done a shiur on the Maoz Tzur. We have done another shiur on the prophetic meaning behind Hanukkah. And if you missed any of the shiurim about Hanukkah, you can get them on our YouTube channel or on our mobile app channel. Okay, if you don't know about our mobile app, you can get our mobile app on the iPhone or on the Google Play Store completely for free, Ahavat Ammi. I also want to let you know before I move forward that we're going to have every year in Hanukkah, we have a significant announcement about our ministry. And this year we're going to have a very big announcement. We are very, very hopeful that we will be able to make this announcement, it's a significant announcement, today, before Shabbat. If it's not going to happen before Shabbat, then God willing, it will happen after Shabbat on Motzei Shabbat, but it's going to be announced online, so be especially tuned to it, especially if you're a Spanish speaker. Very, very big, very significant message to you. So today I want to talk about, in the context of Hanukkah, if we talked in the first lesson a little bit about the Maoz Tzur and the meaning of Hanukkah, and then the second lesson we talk about the prophetic meaning beyond Hanukkah. Today I want to kind of step back for a minute and talk about the history. What's the struggle of Hanukkah is really all about? Why is it significant? What the story of Hanukkah is about? I know a lot of you know the story of sanctifying the temple, but I want to take a step back. And by the way, if you watch me live now, I'm asking you right now to share. Just hit share right now. Let's get some people watching. Those are important lessons. What is Hanukkah is about is also very, very important. Let's bring everything in context. Okay, so very important in context. There was a king, and the name of the king, he was a king. His name was Alexander Mokdon. Very, very important. He was the king of a kingdom called Mokdon. Okay, and this particular king overtook the Persian Empire. Okay, which really ruled most of the world. Okay. Now it's interesting that the grandson of the Rambam, okay, David Anagid, write that there was already a shift that is happening in the world during this time. Some of those Greek wise men like Platon and Aristo and a few others, they already start to understand that there is some sort of power. They didn't use the word God, but there was some sort of a power that bringing the world together. And that was something quite revolutionary during those times, okay? Now, interestingly enough, a lot of philosophies made their way, and after Alexander Mokdon, okay, the kingdom was taken by another king, an Egyptian named Talmi Melech Mitzrayim, okay, and he took the Greek culture to another level, although he was an Egyptian king, okay? And it was a very good time for the Jewish people under the King Talmi, okay? King Talmi was highly respectful to the sages of the Sanhedrin, okay? The Midrash teaches that he built in Jerusalem 70 places for all the sages in Jerusalem, like Armon, palaces, 70 palaces. He built 70 palaces, okay? And every time he invited to those palaces different sages of the Talmud, okay? And he had a desire to get the Torah into Greek, okay? You're wondering where it's come from? How did we get the Hebrew, the Tanakh, the Torah into Greek? It's come from King Ptolemy. And what did he do? He came to all the sages. And they didn't want to do it per se, but the king was asking for. And they said, translate it all to Greek. Now, this is where things becoming very interesting. Something natural happened. Of course, our sages did not want the only Torah to be in Greek. So what they did, they translated it, and they put one mistake here, one mistake there. They kind of embedded the mistakes into the Greek language. Okay, nothing major, just small things. Nothing that the king will be able to recognize, but something that will be for a Jewish person will be recognizable. So it was like a lighting. So the Holy Spirit actually worked because you have multiple people translating the exact same Torah into Greek, and they all put the mistakes. Here's the problem. They all did not speak to each other, and they put the exact same mistakes in the text, okay? For example, in Genesis 1:1, we read, Bereshit bara Elohim, in the beginning God created. If you look in the Targum, what is it says? Elohim bara Bereshit, okay? Why is it? It is happen in such a way that he put in the mistakes straight into the text, okay? After that, some of those things have been also corrected and so forth. And King Ptolemy, so we have the Targum in the Greek, we have the Bible, the Torah into the Greek, okay? And then Ptolemy died, and a new king came into the play. The name of the new king, his name was the ruler of Greece. His name is Antiochus the Wicked, okay? And his assistant, his name was Begris the Wicked. That's what he known that. His name was Begris the Wicked, okay? And they started to introduce the culture of Greece into Israel. I wanted to explain to you something that was the most dangerous thing that has happened. What was the culture of Greece? Well, body lifting, weight lifting, okay, cards playing, okay, and they started to introduce into Israel all the gzerot shmad to destroy the Jewish people. There was a very there was a focus on one own self and one own body, and those type of things started to come into the into the Jewish culture. Even the word Yavan, Greece, the little Yod is represent, Chazal says, like the little leaven that kind of walked into Israel. You see, the Greek Empire was very, very interested. They don't know just to conquer it, the Jewish people. They come to change them from the inside out. Antiochus, king of Greece, his name was also Epiphanes, okay? And this is important name. That's like a high king, okay? That's like saying Pharaoh, okay? And he was called Antiochus IV Epiphanes. That is his name, okay? And what is happening with Antiochus IV? He was in a mission to uproot the Jewish people from their heritage, okay? And we see a kind of a very interesting things about this. He wanted to breach the city. In how many places? 13. Do you know why 13? This is important. Why did he want to breach the city 13 places? How many tribes there are? 12. How many months there are in the Jewish calendars? 12. He wanted to do all of those things in one number greater than the 12, the number 13, to show the superiority of their gods to the God of Israel, okay? There are 12 hours and 12 hours in the day, 12 months, okay? There are 12 stones in the Choshen of the Kohen HaGadol. He wanted symbolically to break it in 13 different places to show the superiority of the Greek Empire, okay? And that's where the problem come. It was not just that the wall was breached. Spiritually, the enemy come and start to breach in the calling and the spirituality and what Hashem is called the Jewish people to be like, okay? And a lot of people start to become what's called in the text mityavnim. What is mityavnim? And this is what I really want to talk about for a moment today. Mityavnim is people who were Jewish who took upon themselves a Hellenistic Greek mentality. Okay, they call me in the text mityavnim, and that's really what Antiochus IV wanted to do. He wanted to change the city culture and the city DNA from within the city. So what did they do? After the city was breached 13 times, they brought the very first thing that they brought their statues inside the city. And there is a very famous story that we found in Tractate Gittin about the fact that they brought them and they put the statue was standing in the middle of the temple for 3 years. Okay, and then they killed Hannah. It's a very famous story, and the seven children. Why? Because Hannah and the 7 children have refused to bow down to these statues. Okay, this is one of the stories, but as you're going to see, those stories continue to go on and on and on. This is like the conflict was on an uprising. Okay, and there is another story just kind of like this. When you read by the grandson of the Rambam, very, very, very similar. And then something interesting happened. Antiochus himself show up in Jerusalem, walk in Bet Amikdash, and who did he find there? He found there Elazar, the high priest. Elazar, the high priest, was almost 91 years old, and Antiochus came to this man, and he says to the high priest, bow down to the image of this God. Okay? And what was the response by Elazar, the high priest? He says to him, on 3 accounts, okay, it's worthy to go to sanctification and Kiddush Hashem. There are 3 reasons a person is willing to give his life, sacrifices his life. Gilui Arayot, okay, sexual misconduct, okay, Shfichut Damim, okay, bloodshed, okay, and Avodah Zarah, idol worship. On those 3, one can sanctify his life according to Judaism. And then he says to him, Alken, therefore, Hargani velo avon avodah zarah. He said, therefore, if you want me to bow down, you must to kill me on the spot. What do you think Antiochus actually did to him? Antiochus literally killed Elazar the Kohen Gadol right there, 90 years old, in front of Jewish people. Please understand that Jerusalem was already divided. Many Jewish people were in the process of losing their Jewish identity. The entire story of Hanukkah is not about the temple, friends. It is a story about our identity and fighting for identity and not losing our identity despite what the world around ourselves is doing. This is very, very important. There's actually another story, okay, that Antiochus was walking in the city in Jerusalem, and there were 80,000 people, 80,000 Jewish people. What did he do? He took 40,000 out of the 80,000, 40,000 were taken prisoners. Okay, 20,000 of them were they were taken as slave, okay, and another 20,000 of them, okay, were put in some sort of like a imprisonment, okay. So you're talking about 80,000 people who were being exiled spiritually, but really, what was Antiochus' goal? Antiochus' goal is to make the Jewish people to be a lowly people who are under bondage. It's a spirit of bondage that he wanted to put us by not allowing us to worship freely the God of our fathers. Okay, this is very important. But then things got even worse. Let's continue because these things got worse. Then after Antiochus left, Antiochus sent his number 1 officer, like police officer, okay, the military officer. His name was Nicanor. Nicanor was the head of the military. And he sent Nicanor which was the worldwide like chief of staff, okay, chief of staff for all the Greek military, okay? And he came to Jerusalem, and he went to Mattityahu, son of Yochanan, the Kohen HaGadol. Okay, it's the same as the grandfather of Mattityahu, and is reminded in the prayer Alanissim. It's the same one, okay? And he told him to make a sacrifice. You know, you're talking about the desolation of that he's talking about in Daniel. It's already took place. It's right here. It took place. He asked him to make a sacrifice to the image, to bow down and make a sacrifice to the image inside Jerusalem, okay? And what Mattityahu says to him, he was very, very clever. He remembered the story, what happened to Elazar, the high priest, when he refused to do it, and he was killed on the spot, you know, just before that. And he was wise, and it says, okay, and that's, by the way, the verse that you found today on the Mossad, the Israeli Mossad used this verse, "Betachbulot ha'asa lecha milchama." Through trickery, through craftiness, you make yourself a war. He was very, very wise. Listen to what he did. He says to Nicanor, he said to him, fine, I will do it. But before he said, I will do it, he took a knife and he hid it like a dagger, and he hid the dagger. The high priest did it, okay? And he hid it inside Bet Hamikdash. So he came with Nicanor together to the Bet Hamikdash, and he says to them, okay? He said to him, do you know that my family is zealous for God, okay? And if they see me do such a thing, they will get up and they will kill me. But you really want to see this sacrifice go through, don't you, Nicanor? And Nicanor says, oh yeah, of course I want to. He says to him, okay. And he says, let us go inside. Let us go inside and let's do it alone. Just you and I. So Nicanor, okay. And this is amazing. And Mattityahu get inside together. And as they get inside together, it is Mattityahu who call upon God and ask him to give a chance and give him the strength to kill the chief of staff of Antiochus Epiphanes, okay? And what does he do? They get inside and he just stab him. This elderly man, he stab him, he kill him, and he take his body by his own hands. And he threw it outside. He threw it outside the Bet HaMikdash, okay, from the house of the Lord. He sanctified the house, okay? And of course, as you can imagine, when Antiochus heard the news of what Mattityahu has done, that was the beginning of the end. And he says that he's going to pass a decree, a real decree against the Jewish people, okay? But you see, that is real Kiddush Hashem. Being able to risk one's life for Hashem name. And one of the things that I think we all need to take from Hanukkah today is this idea of Kiddush Hashem, and ask the question, what are we willing to give up for Kiddush Hashem? Are we, we read in the Kiddush prayer, Nekadesh et Shimcha, Keshem Shemakdishim Oto Bamarom. We sanctify your name as they sanctify it in the heavens above. What are we sanctifying to God? Our people were willing to die than worship an image that is not God. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Now we understand why the issue of Yeshua is so difficult. Because our people were willing for generations to give their own life rather than to worship a false God. And in this case, Antiochus heard the news, and he says, they are going to pay for it. And he went to the place that it's hurted the most. What did he say? He could have killed all the Jews. But no, he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I am going to teach them a lesson on uprooting them from their Jewish identity. You know why it's so dangerous for us to be in the diaspora today? Because we are taking upon ourselves a non-Jewish identity, whether we're Jewish or non-Jewish. You know why? Because we are in a majority society that is non-Jewish. You know why it's so difficult in Israel right now? Because many people want to bring this type of environment into the land of Israel where Judaism is not being practiced. And we look upon this. I was reading today how popular Christmas is in Israel. Christmas by Jews. They did an interview and they asked them, why are you doing this? They said, well, it's just a cool holiday and we just want to be like the rest of the world. You see, nothing is changing in the world. We have not learned from history. Today, we have to deal with the Greek 2,100 years ago. Today, we have to deal with other form of the same thing. And I hope everybody understands it, how crafty the enemy is. So what did he do? What kind of decrees did Antiochus pass upon the Jewish people? He passed actually 3 major decrees. Let's understand them. He was very smart. The first decree called a decree, a gzera al milah. What does it mean? As you can imagine, against circumcision. He said that no Jewish person allowed to circumcise his son on the 8 days. And how was he able to regulate it? You might wonder. Are you ready? Very interesting. There were spies, Jewish people who are with a Greek, they took upon themselves a Greek identity and they were standing there and they were saying, hey, Antiochus, we find out that those Jews are doing a Brit Milah right now. So we had spies among them. We have people today in the body of Messiah, friends. And I am not kidding you, and I'm not going to name them by name. But there are people inside the body of Messiah today in Israel. That there are more Christians than Jews, although they are halachically Jewish. They have nothing to do with the Jews. They speak against the Torah, they speak against the rabbis, they speak against Judaism. There is not any difference. If you don't let the Jews worship God the way we've been worshiping God and you speak against it, you are just, in my book, you're just like those Greeks. To be honest with you, there is not different. But the Jewish people were smart. What did they do? How did they get past those people? They created a sign language among themselves. And what was the sign language? Ta-ta-ta-da! Hanukkah candles. You want to know part of the reason where the Hanukkah candles come from? Right there. They used to put like candles in their windows and they used to signal to each other. When a candle was lit, they say, hey, a baby was born. And from this day, they started to count 8 days and do the Brit Milah as it should have been done. You see how wise, what kind of wisdom the Lord has given to Jewish people to be able to do the Brit Milah in such a way despite the persecution. That is amazing. There was a story actually. There's quite a few stories how they came and take the babies. You read about this. This is an historical account, okay? Now, there's another story that I wanted to share with you, but let me get forward actually just for a moment. So one of the ways that they dealt with, this is absolutely amazing. One of the ways they tried to stop Jewish people from walking into the covenants. You want to know what is a problem that we have today? We have Jewish people who don't want to live according to the covenant of God. You realize that? They don't want to do it. And we have people in the body of Messiah, leaders who speak against the covenants of God. There is not any difference, friends. Anybody who speaks against the covenants of God with the Jewish people who do not encourage it is just like those Jewish people who are Jews by name, but they took upon themselves a Greek identity. I'm calling especially among Jewish people who are watching it today, get out of Christianity, for crying out loud. Return back, be part of the Jewish people and Judaism. Okay? But that was not enough for Antiochus. He said, no. I'm going to do something else, worse. And what is he going to do that is worse? He say, I am going to make sure that Jews, this is the second edict. The second edict is that I will make sure Jews will not observe Shabbat. So the second edict is about Shabbat. There is a story, a very, very famous story, that how did the Jews observe Shabbat? Because everybody was watching them. They were running into caves and they were hiding in caves right before the Shabbat, and they were underground in a cave system. And if you go to Israel, you can see today even. Today you can dig. I had a chance to dig in some of those caving systems where they actually kept the Shabbat. here is the problem with those caves. They're all underground. And if you know what's the opening of the cave is, guess what you can do? What you have to do is put fire, like a torch, and smoke going in from one side, and people inhale the smoke and they die. They found in one cave, okay, in one Shabbat, one cave, 1,000 Jewish souls who died for Kiddush Hashem. They were preferring to keep Shabbat and die for the Shabbat than to not to keep the Shabbat and to become like those Hellenistic Jews. You hear what I am telling you today? There is a lesson for us. Some of us thinking, oh wow, we have today a choice and we have a freedom. You don't have a freedom. If you're a Jewish person, you don't have a freedom because your ancestors, our ancestors have died for this Shabbat. They have died for keeping the Torah. They have died for worshiping the God of Israel. Who are we not to follow in those footsteps? And the second we stop following in these footsteps, look is what is happening. The Jewish people dissimulate and they dissociate with one another. There is amazing thing here. Now Shabbat was not enough for him. He said, no. I will continue and I will pass a third decree. Are you ready for the third decree? He said the Hebrew calendar. You want to know why the Gregorian calendar is so demonic? Because there is a spirit that is associated with this, is the Greek spirit. Antiochus says, no, the Jewish people are not allowed to keep the calendar. If you know something about the Jewish calendar, if you cannot keep the calendar and the moon and the festival, the Jewish life is stripped among themselves. And that's also affect all the laws of Nida, okay? All the law of Nida that relating to the women purity laws. If we don't know the calendar, women cannot keep the purity laws. So not only that, he wanted the women to be defiled. He wanted the community not to be able to keep the Moadim. And some people says today, oh, the Hillel calendar is wrong and this is wrong. Do you even realize what chutzpah? It's like putting a dagger in their heart. All these stupid calendar people who say, well, you don't understand that the calendar is wrong. Do you know what the Jewish people even gave to keep this calendar? To keep those dates when they were putting a sword to their head. And today we have some people in the Hebrew roots movement that come and speaking against the Jewish calendar. Do you know what offense it is to the Jewish people? I'm speaking to you today from my heart because some of you might not even know the story and what we had to give even to get to where we have. And they say, oh, the Jewish people deceive and they change it. Who? What kind of nonsense this is? Show me another group of people that was willing to die, that was willing to die and to suffer in such a way. You know, look at those decrees, okay? Here is the fourth decree. Are you ready? It didn't end there. It says that a person cannot become Jewish. It was a spirit like of a Hitler. He said nobody will allow to be Jewish because no circumcision, no Shabbat, no Chagim, no Jewish calendar. But he didn't stop there. He continued and he said, are you ready? He says that no ketuvah will be allowed to put in front of Jewish people. This is important. If there is no ketuvah, that means that Jewish people are not allowed to get married according to the halacha, okay? So how did they get around this? It says in Tractate Ketuvot, an historical account, it says that they were married in secret in a ketuvah. You know, I went to do some digging in Israel, and guess what? The same week that I did digging in some of those caves, guess what they found in the cave there? They found a ketuvah. And they've actually found a ketuvah dating back almost 2,200 years. Imagine married in such a way and putting such a risk even about getting married. But what was the goal of the Greek? Why did they pass those decrees? Okay? Chazal said, and they explained, it says, Kol mi sheyesh bo shalosh midot ele, whoever have those three measures, yadua beziro shel Avraham. He is the son of Abraham. Okay? Are you ready? Rachaman, merciful, Baishan, Shai, meek, v'gomel chasadim. A person who doing unjustified accounts of loving kindness. This is the definition of a Jew, okay? And Rachaman has to do with the Brit Milah, okay? The Baishan have to be with observing, and Gomel Chasadim have to do with Chodesh Chodashim. So in essence, what Chazal said, that what Antiochus was trying to do, he was trying to remove any Jewish identity from the Jewish people. So what did the Jewish people have to do? They had to fight. They didn't fight for themselves. They fight for the name of God. Think about it. All those Gzirot, Chodesh, the Chodesh, Shabbat, the Milah, there is a remez in the word Chashmonaim. The Chashmonaim are called the Maccabees, but the name is Chashmonaim. What is the word Chashmonaim come from? Chet for the Chodesh, okay? Shin, okay? Shin from the word Shabbat, okay, and man from the word Milah. Chodesh, Shabbat, Milah. Those are the three things we must continue to do as Jews. To observe the Rosh Chodesh, to observe the Shabbat, and to do the circumcision of our heart. If we don't do those things, we are no longer Jews, okay? And matter of fact, we see an amazing connection to this in this Torah portion, this Shabbat. This Shabbat, we are in Parashat Miketz, and what does it say in chapter 41 in Parashat Miketz? I want you to notice. It says, Vachimesh et eret Mitzrayim. The word chimesh comes from the word arm. He equipped the Egyptian. And what is the chimesh? What does the chimesh mean? Comes from the word chamesh. Okay, Chodesh, Milah, and Shabbat. In the sense that there is a spirit of the world, is the spirit of Egypt, is the spirit of Greece, and the worst one of the world is the spirit of Edom. You want to know what the spirit trying to do today in the world? Trying to stop the Jewish people from being Jewish. Why? Because the second the Jewish people are being Jewish and act as Jews, the entire world is getting blessed. Let me say it again. When Israel will receive the Messiah, the entire world will be blessed. When the Jews act like Jews, the entire human race will receive blessing. Paul says that in the book of Romans 11. He says, if their failure will mean riches to the world, what will be their acceptance that will win to the world? How much more blessing that the world will receive when the Jewish people will be able to come under and break this bondage. You hear what I'm saying to you today? There is a spiritual war today, okay? And we must to understand this. Even in the word shaman, remember what did they give to what did they brought to the Beit HaMikdash? The shaman. What is the word shaman related to? Think about it. Shabbat, Shin, Mem, Brit Milah, Nun, Nida, the purity law of women. In all of those things, we're seeing great remazim, okay? So today I'm giving you just a little bit of history because some of you might not even understand how we even got to Judah the Maccabee. How did we get there? Please understand, the war has to do a war for identity. Hanukkah is about one thing. It is about Jewish identity. What does it mean to you? I especially want to talk for the body of Messiah for a second. If you are part of the body of Messiah, please understand that the Jewish people have a unique identity. And if you come, people say to me all the time, well, now we're one in Messiah. We're the same in Messiah. Friend, if you say you're one in Messiah, yes, you are one in Messiah. But if you're trying to rob the Jewish people of their identity, and the uniqueness in the Lord, you're not any different than Antiochus. I know it's going to be hard to hear it today, but anybody who tried to rob the Jewish people of their calling and their identity and their role is none other different, and is doing the same thing that the Satan has been doing now for 3,000 years. The Jewish people have a place, and he's bringing now the Gentiles. Actually, you want to know what the Gentiles' role is? To come to the Jewish people to remind them the britot, the covenants, okay, to remind them, okay, that they have to keep their new moons, okay, and to keep the Shabbat. This is your role as a Gentile today, to remind the Jewish people of what God called them to be, and what God called them to do, okay? So anyway, I know those lessons are supposed to be brief. I know today I went a little bit overboard, but as you can see, there's so much to learn about Hanukkah. If you missed the previous lesson, catch them. And again, I want to challenge you also. Please continue prayer for us and support us. We need this support. We're about to go back to Israel here in about 4.5, 5 weeks to do another revival event. Again, we bring in Jewish people with Messiah to the Torah. And this is really, really important. And we really need the financial support right now because it takes a lot to do what we're doing. Most importantly, in your life, in your walk, continue to ask yourself a question. Who am I in this story? Am I the one who come and remind the Jewish people and tell them, come on, Jews, be a Jew, act like Jews, live your life as a Jew, do the things that God called you to be, or you're the one who said to the Jews, we are one new man, we are one the same in the Messiah, just become a good Christian and you're good. Who are you? What are we doing? This is part of the battle of Hanukkah. This battle is happening today with Edom. It's the same spelling of the spirit of Yavan. Let's win this battle together in the spirit. Guys, love you. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. Litraot. Tomorrow evening will be another special shiur about Hanukkah, God willing. Litraot.